This year, we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. But not the one you've probably heard of.
Governments of the industrial world, I come from cyberspace. On behalf of the future, I ask you of the past to leave us alone. You are not welcome here. You have no sovereignty where we gather.
This was written in 1996 by John Perry Barlow, a founder of the Electronic Frontier Foundation and lyricist for The Grateful Dead. It's called A Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace and was based on the original Declaration of Independence from 1776, whose 250th anniversary is also this year. Independence is a word we hear a lot, especially around this time of year.
250 years since the Declaration of Independence.
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 It's worth stopping to ask what it actually means now, in an age where most of your day happens inside software and systems you can't see and don't control. At its core, independence means the same thing it always has: thinking for yourself, speaking without fear, making your own choices about how you live, what you buy, and how you raise your kids, owning your own mind. The trouble is that in the digital age, every one of these things is harder than it used to be. Someone is always trying to shape what you see, nudge what you believe, track what you do, and then take control of your child's screen and do it all to them too. This invasion into our lives reaches further than any king or army ever could. Barlow envisioned a cyberspace that was free, a place where anyone could speak, learn, build, and connect without asking permission. Instead, the digital frontier got captured by governments who want to monitor you and by corporations who get rich turning your attention, your data, and your private life into products. The two work hand in hand now, feeding on each other.
The idea that somebody is watching me, that I have to be worried about that is not freedom. And it doesn't give me the ability to truly explore my deepest thoughts and values. And it chills who I connect with. It chills who I learn from.
Jay LaPere and I chatted about the Declaration of Independence and what made it so important. In this video, I want to walk you through three things: the context of the original declaration, the promise behind Barlow's Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace, and what kind of declaration we need today to protect our privacy, autonomy, and independence into the years to come. Let's start with understanding the context of the declaration that turns 250 years old this year.
The Declaration was the first in human history to declare government as the servant of the people and not the people as the servants of government.
It's the summer of 1776, and a group of people are about to do something that, by any rational calculation, is insane. They are going to pick a fight with the most powerful empire on Earth. The Royal Navy controls the oceans. The British Army is the most battle-hardened fighting force alive. The British economy dwarfs everything around it, and the reach of the crown extends to every corner of the globe, including India, Africa, the Caribbean, and North America. A group of people across the ocean have had enough. Their lives are being run from 3,000 miles away by men who've never set foot on the continent. The rules keep changing, the taxes keep coming, and if you say the wrong thing about the king, his men come knocking, going through your belongings, reading your letters, hunting for anything that they can arrest you for.
I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da, da, da.
Most people just put up with it, because what else can you do? You're a farmer with a musket. The king has a navy. Some people are in charge and you're not one of them. That's just the way the world works.
My sweet, submissive subject, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
And yet, on July 4th, 1776, 56 people signed their names to a document declaring that the king no longer had any legitimate authority over them. Think about that for a moment. Most of us walk through life assuming certain things. there is a government. There has always been one. There always will be. The people in charge are in charge, and the best we can hope for is to beg them not to strip away too many of our rights. These 56 signers assumed something new, that the government works for us, that it exists to serve us, not to rule us.
The founders said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator, certain unalienable rights, and among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, and again, not to grant, but to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
They declared that the government's power exists only because the people choose to give it, and that the people can choose differently.
The person seeking the power and wanting that to be unlimited, that needs to be justified, not the need for freedom. The need for freedom should be the presumption.
The Declaration says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. That when a long chain of abuses and usurpations reveals a clear plan to force people under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off that government. So basically, we get to end it and start over if those in power begin abusing it instead of protecting our liberty. That was a radical idea. It still is.
It's just unbelievable that they say, okay, they're against the most powerful nation on earth. It's my right. It's my life. For us, that's, well, what's the big deal? Well, imagine at the time, and never in history has that been claimed.
To announce to a king, you do not rule us, and to declare that individuals have unalienable rights no government or monarch can override, that all people are equal rather than ruled by divine right, that those in charge are only there because we consent. That was unprecedented. Every person who signed this declaration was signing a potential death warrant. If the revolution failed, that piece of paper became a list of traitors.
I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love.
So why do it? Because submission was its own kind of death. Some things are worth standing up for. The right to think your own thoughts, to make your own choices, to keep your private life private, to raise your own children. They had no idea whether they would win. And this is something we forget 250 years later, with the outcome already written into the history books. But the odds at the time were very much against them. Which brings us to today. Our lives migrated to the digital realm, and that world is more watched and more controlled than anything before it. People tell me all the time that the fight for privacy is already lost, that surveillance is too big to beat. But history is full of fights that could not be won and were won anyway. Let's come back to this in a moment. I want to switch gears first and now dive into Barlow's declaration. It's 1996. The digital world is a new frontier. It's decentralized. Nobody owns it. It runs on open protocols, which means the rules for how information travels are public, free, and available to anyone. Ideas move without gatekeepers. Someone in a small town can publish something and be read on the other side of the world. Power is genuinely flattened.
We are creating a world where anyone, anywhere, may express his or her beliefs, no matter how singular, without fear of being coerced into silence or conformity.
Barlow and others believed the architecture of the internet made it ungovernable, that it was free by its very nature.
Cyberspace does not lie within your borders. You have no moral right to rule us, nor do you possess any methods of enforcement we have true reason to fear.
What I love about the statement is that it's a moral statement. It's the exact same aspirational and inspiring idea of self-ownership. I control me and I own me. That's what we want. We want that freedom. We want to be left alone.
But while we wanted the internet to be independent, its servers sat inside territory that was already captured. The physical hardware, the data centers, the cables, the routers, all lived inside jurisdictions with laws, courts, and subpoenas. And surveillance of those wires turned out to be extraordinarily valuable to advertisers, to political campaigns, to anyone who wanted to understand you well enough to influence what you think, what you buy, and who you vote for. Piece by piece, we accepted the idea that governments had the right to see everything about us, simply because our data traveled along those wires that they claimed to control. This is not the internet Barlow imagined. This is not even the internet most of us grew up with. A handful of governments and corporations now control the space where we live our lives. They decide what we see, they decide what we can say, they can ban or block us whenever they want.
There's just too much at stake in concentrated power.
Internet independence was lost platform by platform, regulation by regulation. And at the same time, our lives completely migrated to the digital realm. So the result is that control over every aspect of our lives is now much harder to escape. The founders spent a lot of time thinking about what happens to a human being when someone else runs their life.
It's about being able to create me and be the architect of my life. Every human being has to travel that journey to figure out, how do I create my best life?
Has the digital age made us passengers in our own lives, at the whim of whatever someone else's algorithm wants us to see, hear, and believe, treading on eggshells and self-censoring because we know everything we do is monitored? Privacy protects your independence. Every person changes over the course of a life. We try on ideas, we embarrass ourselves, we hold beliefs that we later abandon.
And that journey of improvement is not without flaws. It's not without lots of stepping in piles and embarrassing ourselves. You certainly don't want that to be the public spotlight. The importance of privacy, it's directly connected, in my view, to the idea that you want to have the freedom to explore and make mistakes.
Without that space, you can't grow. Your digital self is etched in stone, and it will always be held over you. You can't change your mind. You can't become anything other than the version of yourself that the system already has on file. So you stop exploring. You stop asking. You stop connecting with people who might look risky in a database somewhere. You become the safest, dullest version of yourself.
The difference between being independent and running my life and then having someone who is herding us in a collective tribe like we're sheeple and moving us along into that is really the difference between full self-actualization as a human being.
How are we expected to fully self-actualize when our digital lives are under the surveillance and control of others? How are we supposed to think and say certain things, attend certain events, or associate with certain people when everything we do is added to some profile that might be used as a flag against us later? You can't have free thought without a private space to think in.
If you chill speech, you will chill thinking. And if you chill privacy, you will chill all of those.
And don't tell yourself that you still have your offline life. You don't.
Our physical lives have become these data points. Everything's digitized. Every association we have now is migrated into some database that could be analyzed, controlled, silenced.
The invasion Barlow warned about is no longer confined to cyberspace. It's in your kitchen, your car, your bedroom, your doctor's office, your child's classroom. Every corner of your life has been turned into cyberspace, and cyberspace has been captured. This is not a fight for our digital life. It is a fight for our entire life. So the question we should be asking right now is,
who should make the important decisions in your life?
You or an algorithm that knows everything about you because you kept feeding it your data?
We want to preserve that sense of liberty for everyone because we recognize just how exhilarating, aspirational, and uplifting it is to have that power. And without it, it's not a human life.
So let's make a new declaration. Or maybe we don't need to write one. Maybe we just need to reread the old ones. Barlow's already did the work. It was just early. In 1996, before most households even had the internet, he saw the battle that was coming. He understood that the internet was new territory, and whoever wrote the rules for it first would shape human life for centuries. Someone was going to crown themselves king of that space, and he wanted to put down a flag first and say, no, this is independent ground. You have no jurisdiction here. The most important thing about both his declaration and the one from 1776 is that they were both moral claims. Some things are true regardless of what any king says.
If you shift into what unites us culturally and ethically, it's moral claims, and that's what the founders did.
For most of human history, if you wanted freedom, you had to justify why you deserved it, prove your loyalty, ask permission, beg the king. The founders reversed it. They said that the person who wants power over you is the one who has to justify himself. Today, we're back to justifying our freedoms. Why do you want privacy? What do you have to hide? Show us your ID, your face, your data, your location, your messages by default. Why would you want to keep your browsing history a secret? The Declaration of Independence was about the individual's relationship to power. It said that certain rights belong to people, not to governments, not to kings, and that any authority claiming power over those people has to justify itself. So let's take stock of who has authority over you right now. Who owns your attention? It's a commodity and someone else is controlling it. Who shapes your beliefs? The feed you scroll isn't neutral. Someone is paying to put that stuff in front of you. You're being shown the version of the world that someone else wants you to see. Who decides what you're allowed to say? Online speech is heavily regulated globally, and censorship often happens silently with shadow bans and quiet removals. The control is centralized, opaque, and operating at a scale with no precedent in human history. I refuse to accept that governments, faceless data brokers, or countless corporations have any right to invade my every private space. I draw a moral line in the sand. Keep out. You are not welcome here. And I'm not alone. Projects everywhere are drawing that same line. When politicians moved to bake age verification into operating systems, Graphene OS said no. Ageless Linux launched as an act of civil disobedience, describing itself as being in full, knowing, and intentional non-compliance. You want to force a computer that I own to demand my age at setup and then broadcast that age bracket to every app that I use? I do not recognize your authority to make that decision for me. With all the global ID mandates, are politicians working for the people or controlling the people? The people of the UK largely opposed the Online Safety Act. Politicians passed it anyway. In the EU, people keep rejecting chat control, another mandatory backdoor into private life. Politicians keep trying to pass it anyway. Increasingly, we see those with power, like politicians, on the side of the corporations who lobby them, who fund their campaigns, and who profit from the data that we're forced to hand over. I will eliminate privacy on the internet to censor and control you, to remind you of my love. Well, we do not recognize your authority to make these decisions for us. I get to decide how my tech works, not you. Okay, so we've drawn a moral line. Now what? Do we have to overthrow anything to defend it? No, we can defend this independence quietly in our own lives by simply refusing to hand our minds, our money, our children, and our private lives over to systems designed to exploit them. But making the moral claim isn't enough on its own. If we want digital independence to be more than just words on a page, we need infrastructure that helps us protect it. Infrastructure that's resistant to capture by design. Tools where the freedom can't be revoked by a policy change or a government order because it's baked into math. That infrastructure has two core components, and you need both. First, there's decentralization. Networks built on open protocols that no single entity controls. No central server to seize, no single company to pressure, no one throat to choke. An empire can't send soldiers to a protocol running on thousands of computers around the world. It can't subpoena a key that no company holds, and it can't deplatform a protocol. But decentralization alone isn't enough, because even if the network itself can't be shut down, the individuals using it can.
When you say to a powerful government that they can't have something, what they do have is the right to use physical violence against individuals.
It doesn't matter if you have like a decentralized technology. If the government knew that you were using it, they can target individuals who are using that.
So the second part that we need to defend our independence is privacy tech, encryption, the ability to use decentralized tools without being individually identified.
What if we reframe this and think of this data, instead of living inside these servers, it lives inside this encrypted package, meaning that, only the people who have the key to this digital lock can open it. Now, that is a space where actually governments can't get. We're going from an idea of geographical boundaries to suddenly it's like mathematical boundaries around the information we want to share with people.
End-to-end encryption means a conversation between two people can't be read by the platform carrying it, by the company that built the app, or by a government demanding access, because the keys exist only with the people talking. The architecture enforces the privacy. Instead of relying on a promise, you rely on math. Decentralization makes the technology resistant to being shut down, and privacy makes the people using it resistant to being targeted. Neither works without the other, and together these technologies can help us protect our independence. We keep talking about privacy as the victim in the war against the free internet, but privacy is what's actually going to save the free internet. The free internet has been slowly captured because the infrastructure allowed it. But now we've built better technology that by design is resistant to capture. And privacy tech is what will make it possible for us to use this technology, even when authoritarian regimes tell us we're not allowed it. Because the thing is, the king is never going to relinquish his own power. It's up to us to take our power back. And we can only do that with territory that we can actually defend. Territory that lives inside encryption and decentralized systems that can't be shut down. Somewhere along the way, we started to believe in our own powerlessness, but we are far from powerless.
History does respect the power of the individual. We can move mountains if we can be clear enough and articulate enough and forceful enough and passionate enough. Some things are worth doing even when, just as the founders were dealing with, they had no certainty of success. The only way you find out if you can achieve is if you try it. You don't know until you've given it your best and tried it.
Breaking free doesn't require a revolution. It starts with a simple decision. Stop handing over your mind, your money, and your children to systems designed to exploit and control them. Independence in 2026 is something you have to choose every single day. So let's give it a try. Let's see if we can unite around this moral claim. We hold these truths to be self-evident in the digital age: that every person has the right to speak without surveillance, that every person has the right to think without manipulation, that every person has the right to move through the world without being tracked, that every person has the right to communicate privately, that no corporation and no government holds any legitimate authority to override these rights, and that when any system of power becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to build something different. This video was brought to you by the Ludlow Institute. Please consider visiting ludlowinstitute.org/donate if you'd like to support the work that we do to try to keep the internet free.